Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best party build for Divinity Original Sin 2 in Acts 1 and 2, focused on physical damage. With this, we'll mostly have Warfare in the builds, as that's one of the best for physical damage. We got a Necromancer, a Huntsman, a Scoundrel, and a general purpose support buff tanky style class. Now with this, I really enjoy having the Huntsman as more of our ranged attacker, getting to high ground so they can get a bit of extra damage. But I'll be honest, most of these builds will have a lot of warfare in it, as that's just the way to get the best amount of damage. Now, the nice thing is we got a good amount of buffs to keep our team alive and different abilities which can set up other characters with things like our nether swap, teleportation, the tactical retreat here. And Ifan's a nice character to go first with high wits, giving us the encouraged here to buff our team up, and then also having things like haste, which he can apply on himself or somebody else. And the thing is, with an archer, we can use a lot of the things like knockdown arrows, which are a little bit better than having skills, so we can focus more on buffs. The nice thing is only one character has to have high initiative in the party just due to how initiative works in Divinity Original Sin 2. And Necromancer with some warfare is really nice as well, because the Necromancer has some long range attacks, and then we can also use the warfare to get in position here and then be able to crowd control. That's really the main focus of that. Furthermore, once we get the physical armor down, we can use Shackles of Pain, which is honestly quite powerful. The Mosquito Swarm gives us some nice sustain and bleed. Almost got their physical armor down, which is perfect, because then I can follow up with a Battle Stomp here, which is just nice to have on pretty much every character, as crowd control is so important. I like to have one character with a shield, because bouncing shield is an honestly very good ability, and it gives you a character that's tanky a bit of DPS that they can do often, and it works at range. And one of the nice things is, with a few points into the Scoundrel here, getting Adrenaline's really nice, because that means that we can extend our turn and then go into doing something like applying more of debuffs onto a particular enemy here. It's really just a race to getting the most damage out on a character as possible. And Polymorph fits on here well, because Chicken Claw is just such a good ability, especially if you have Ruptured Tendons on your Scoundrel. And the nice thing about a Scoundrel is you can actually apply Ruptured Tendons on anyone, that even if they don't have any of their armor down. So what's great about this is going to make the target end up taking a bunch of damage, and even funnier when you have Chicken Claw and they start running around. And we can also do some pretty respectable damage with skills like our Battle Stomp being able to critical hit. So brief overview, I got Fane as the Necromancer, mixed with Warfare, leaning towards Warfare. Sebille here is going to be focused mostly on the Scoundrel skills, but again, Warfare just gives us the best amount of damage possible, so that's where she's spec'd into as well. Lohse, I got a bit of everything going on with her kit. She's got some polymorph abilities, as well as she's got a shield, so she's going to be using all the shield-based abilities to be a bit more tanky for everyone, but still giving ourselves a good amount of crowd control. And then I have Ifan here. He does have his Soul Wolf, so which would be good for a summoner-style build. I did a summoner build for Red Prince yesterday, but I found that he's just good as an arrow. It just feels lore appropriate to have him shooting arrows, so I have him doing that with teleportation and nether swab for arrow skills. And as far as our Necromancer goes, it's actually best to use a heavy weapon. I'll get to that in a moment, but I went with a full intelligent build on his attributes here, so this is going to give us more skill damage off of all of our things necromancy related. Strength is nice, but I mainly just have it for gear related purposes. Memory is good. We want to have around 15 for the amount of spells that we want to prepare, and wits, giving us critical hit chance. We don't need to have points in wits. You can put points into your memory to get that up a little bit higher for a bit more spells prepared, and then points into your intelligence as well. After that, we're going on to our abilities. Now, Warfare being a big one, because this just gives us the maximum amount of our damage. I do have 6 points in the Necromancer, and this is all from our gear. This gives us 60% of the healing from damage that we deal to Vitality. So you're not always going to be getting this, but it's nice to have. Warfare being the big one, because the more damage we deal, the more lifesteal we get. It just makes sense. So 13 points into Warfare there. That's coming from our gear too. 3 points in gear. I have base 10 there. I like to have at least 2 points in Pyrokinetic, as we do need at least 1 point to be able to use the Corpse Explosion, and there's some other Pyrokinetic skills that are nice too. Hydrosophist is okay. It's good for the healing spells, and Geomancy's alright. I'd rather have most of our points into Warfare, and maybe 1 point of Scoundrel for certain abilities, the rest of Necromancer, and I have 2 points in Polymorph here just for the skills that come with it, although it's not fully necessary. This will also give you attribute points. And for our talents on the Necromancer build, we got the Elemental Affinity, which lowers the action point cost of spells by 1 when standing in a surface of the same element. Crazy, because this gives us the ability to cast our Necromancer spells. This would be a little bit better on an elf like Sebille, but this is still very powerful, because we can set up blood pretty quick and easy. We also got the Executioner, which gives us 2 action points when dealing a killing blow once per turn. On a team build, I like to have 2 with Executioner, 2 with the Pawn, or somewhere around there. I actually think the Pawn works very well in this too, since we're using a melee weapon, which I'll get to in the gear section here in a second. Now I also have the Picture of Health. Since I have so much Warfare, this gives us more Vitality. Not fully necessary, but this is going to give us a bit more survivability. Another good choice is the Hothead here, because this will give us 10% critical hit chance, which is really good when we factor in Savage Sortilege here, which all magical skills get a crit chance equal to your critical chance score. So that's another 10% there with this one. It's pretty absurd with a heavy weapon, and I'm going to show you why, because it's going to scale up our critical hit damage. Our spells can crit, and it's just very powerful. Because you can get two-handed weapons. I have a mace here. This one has 14% critical chance, which with the Savage Sortilege gets added to our overall crit chance, which is 32 with this setup. Pretty crazy, honestly. And then also we got ourselves that 175% crit damage from this weapon, which you can get different depending on what type of weapon that you're using. So yeah, that is pretty powerful when combined together. As far as the skills that we want to have prepared, Raise Bloated Corpse is nice if you want to have some extra crowd control and aggro. The Decaying Touch is going to be a powerful spell because we can decay targets, and then whenever they get healed, they take damage. This can be really good to finish off enemies. My favorite combination actually here with this is Shackles of Pain. So whenever we take this, we will end up giving all damage that we take onto the target that we apply this to. This becomes pretty crazy. Now, I just want to mention it's also resisted by physical armor, but this can be really crazy when it's combined with Living on the Edge. For 2 turns, your target character's vitality cannot be reduced below 1 point, keeping it alive against all odds. This means that your teammates can actually attack you, and it'll take the target with the Shackles of Pain will end up taking damage. It's kind of funny. But we also got Infect here, which is pretty powerful. Infect a target with disease. They'll spread to nearby creatures, which will deal reduced damage and have their constitution lowered, lowering their overall health. This is pretty powerful ability. I also like Mosquito Swarm because it's pretty good. It will heal you, so if you don't have the target's damage down too much, this is kind of nice. Bloodsucker is also another powerful ability to give us some more sustain. Raining Blood sets up a lot of our other teammates too, so I like to have this skill prepared. And we also got Haste here to be able to provide some buffs. Bless, which you can bless surfaces, which is really powerful. And we also then have our Corpse Explosion here, which is the connection of Pyrokinetic to Necromancer. You combine a scroll, or you combine a book of each of those schools, and you can get Corpse Explosion. This is very high damage and has 1 action point cost, so when you start taking out targets, use this often. It's one of the best. But we got Haste there from Pyrokinetic as well, and same thing as Phoenix Dive, which is warfare skills, because we do want a bit of physical damage. So Battle Stomp, Phoenix Dive, and Battering Ram for a bit of mobility and the crowd control that it brings. And yeah, these are the best skills in my opinion. Play Dead's okay, because you can use this if it doesn't have an action point cost, you can pop yourself down. Also Time Warp, whenever this character ends a turn in combat, they immediately get a free turn, which is kind of nice as well. And with our gear, we're going to be looking at Constitution's actually kind of nice. We don't have the highest health, but we have a lot of life sustain, so we want to get that going pretty well. Also, Strength is an okay one for more of our physical attacks, but we're really all about getting our intelligence up as high as possible. It's going to be our main stat. And then points into Warfare, which does scale up our spells, funny enough, because these are physical damage spells. So these will get a bit more damage from using a more higher Warfare. Things like Infect get pretty good scaling from that. Next, we have Lohse in more of a support style role, which is going to be strength-based. I do have some points of finesse. This is more so for gear, because there are sometimes gear you can't really control the rolls that you get, and sometimes you just need a little finesse. I do have some points in Constitution, but honestly, it's not that great of an ability in Divinity Original Sin 2. This does give you more health, but honestly, when you're down to your health, you're going to get crowd controlled, so what good does that really do in the grand scheme of things? But it's still obviously quite nice to have a few points in there. And a few points into memory as well, so we can prepare more abilities, but strength being the main score for this one, because we're going all in on Warfare. Now, typically, if we're doing a physical build, Warfare is kind of required for everything, because that's going to scale up your damage. Now, this is in Tactician mode, so it's kind of important. I also like to have 1 point into Scoundrel. The reason being is then we can take something like the Pawn. We do need to invest 1 point into it to be able to take that. You can't have it from gear. So that's kind of nice just to be able to get that, and I have +1 from gear as well. Aerotheurge is really good as well because this can give us some abilities to teleport around, but I honestly prefer to have more of our points into the Polymorph here. I have a couple points into Necromancer, which can give us some sustainable healing abilities, but honestly, it's probably a little bit better to have the Hydrosophist here for a few health spells. So in all honesty, it'd be mostly Warfare here, 1 point Scoundrel for the Pawn, 2 points into Hydrosophist for the healing spells, 1 point Aerotheurge for the spells there. You could actually go with 2 points as well. And then 2 points into Polymorph so that we can get some different abilities that are actually great for crowd control. And for the talents we'll be selecting, I like Hothead here, increased critical chance when full health, obviously very nice. I have the Mnemonic here, which will give us more memory of points, which allows us to pick some more spells, which is great. I have the Opportunist here, which will allow you to do opportunity attacks, which is really good too, because we're going to be in the thick of it often. This gives us some extra damage normally. And the Pawn, so that we can get into position. This gives us 1 action point worth of free movement at the start of each of our turns, which is really good. Now, as far as their skills go, I really like the Polymorph style one. So Tentacle Lash, which is great if you got your physical armor down on target, because we'll reduce their physical damage a lot, making them not able to attack. We also have Spread Your Wings for a bit of mobility with a 1 action point cost. I also like Medusa Head here with the Petrifying Visage skill, which is very powerful. You can't use it with Bullhorns. It's kind of a choose one or the other, with Medusa Head being the preferred option, but Bullhorns are good too. We can also remove it for some other skills. And then Chicken Claw is great because if you have Ruptured Tendons on your Scoundrel, you can use this to get the target moving. I also have the Warfare skills like Phoenix Dive, Battle Stomp, Bouncing Shield, and Deflective Barrier. These are great because we have a shield, so we can use this for a bit of extra damage on a short cooldown at range, and Deflective Barrier if there's ranged attacks going on near us. We also have Adrenaline here because sometimes we need that burst damage. And I like to have some Hydrosophist skills here, like the Healing Ritual, which will allow you to chain a heal around to nearby enemy allies. Restoration with a single point cost. This can restore vitality for 2 turns and cure poison or bleeding, which is great. And then Soothing Cold, which will regenerate magic armor for anyone nearby us for 37 magic armor over 3 turns. Now, the absolute best, you can go with other things like the Armor of Frost if you want a bit more of a higher version of this. It's probably better unless you have everybody nearby, so you can go with either of those. Maddening Song's nice, but you have to have the magic armor down on a target, so this is a tough one to use on a physical damage build, but Encourage is great. And then I also have the Battering Ram from our skills, because we typically want to have Battle Stomp and Battering Ram on everybody. And for this, we're going to be looking for skills in Warfare, as well as getting our strength up as high as possible. I like to go with a weapon that's got Life Seal on it and Silence. Silence typically being one of the best choices because it'll shut down spellcasters. And then we also got a shield which will reflect melee damage as physical damage. This is going to be great for protecting the team. And Sebille perfectly matches this because of Rupture Tendons being a Scoundrel. She's going to be our finesse-based build, so we're going to go with that. And if you have a few points into strength, so we can equip a couple strength-based gear options at this level, but finesse is going to be the main score. I have a few points in our memory and a few in wits for the critical chance, but not necessary. We do want to have our high warfare again on this build. I have only 1 point from Scoundrel, so we can take the pawn here. Scoundrel's great because it gives you a critical multiplier. However, Warfare actually gives us more flat-out damage, which is way better. So that's what we went with mostly, the Warfare. I also have points in the Air Thirge here. Getting 3 points lets us use a lot of teleportation skills that I think works well with the Scoundrel and Warfare. And I got some points in Polymorph because that's also quite nice to have, although you can take some of those points out and put them into your Warfare ability. And then we also got Lordmaster here. For talents, Glass Cannon I think works best, giving us the extra 2 action points, lets us do an extra attack, which is great when we got so much damage, although we can get crowd controlled a little bit easier. Mnemonic gives us more memory attribute, which is again nice just to have. The Opportunist gives us, since we're going to be in physical range, the opportunity attacks. Weaponizing that on our defensive turns are great. And the Pawn is, I think, the most optimal one that we want to have here because we need to move around a lot, and this will give us more action points worth of movement so you can get into position. And for our skills, I like to have the teleportation here, which lets you teleport a character or an item to a point of your choosing. This can be good to set up your other teammates. We also have Uncanny Evasion, which will give your dodging increase by 90% and movement speed increase by 20%, which is really nice. 1 action point cost can be really beneficial. Also, for our Scoundrel skills, I have Cloak and Dagger, which lets you teleport without breaking stealth. Really good. We also have Rupture Tendons and Mentioned, which does physical damage. When they move, they take piercing damage. Again, great after Chicken Claw, as it's going to make them run around a lot. And we also have Chicken Claw in this as well. Backlash being one of our best spells or skills here because this will let us teleport behind an enemy and get a critical hit off on them. 100% chance of backstab is really nice. Throwing Knife's good because you can backstab from range, so this is optimal if you can't quite to the target. Now, Sleeping Arms is really good because it trophies the enemy for 2 turns. They can't use weapons once their physical armor is down. So once we get that up, once we break physical armor, it's sometimes best to do Adrenaline and then go into Sleeping Arms here because this can basically shut down a weapon attacker. So these two work very well. Now, for our Warfare skills, I also have Battle Stomp, Blitz Attack, and Battering Ram. These are good, again, once you have the target's physical armor down, crowd control them. I also have Blitz Attack here, which lets you attack 2 targets, which is kind of nice. And then for our Polymorph skills, I like Chicken Claw here. Again, turning a target into chicken's great. And then using Spread Your Wings to fly around is pretty nice too when we aren't using our Uncanny Evasion or Teleportation or Cloak and Dagger. And we also have Flesh Sacrifice, so if you can move beside your Necromancer, it's really nice because you can give yourself 1 action point and cause a bloody surface, which will make you have less health, but it's really good to have. Then we also Break the Shackles, which is kind of nice to be able to get out of any of those negative effects quickly. And I also have Sawtooth Knife, which will do piercing damage right to their vitality. It bypasses armor, so that's kind of nice as well. But if they don't have armor, it'll apply bleed. And for our gear, we're going for mostly dual wielding, warfare, and any type of finesse skills that we can get up here. So yeah, that's kind of nice. Getting points in Scoundrel is good too, but yeah, we don't need too much Scoundrel till the later on section of the game here. Now, for the weapons, we want to find ones with Silence, and Lifesteal can be nice as well. The reason that I'm looking for Silence is that we want to shut down spellcasters because we got a lot of mobility on this build. So both of these have silence on them. I got one with the sawtooth knife there. These are optimal. Look for something like that. And finally, we got a range attacker Ifan here. Now, with this, we're going around finesse as well. We got memory, so we can prepare some spells. We don't need as many memory points, however, because our arrows are going to be where we get a lot of our abilities from. And we want some wits. I like to have him have the highest wits on our team so that he can go first and set up traps and also then be able to strip down our enemy's armor. I think this works best with this stat spread we got here. Now for the abilities, Warfare again being the big one for increasing our physical damage. It's just kind of the way it goes. I only have 2 points into Huntsman, and that's all we need at this current moment to get all the skills that we want. This will just increase your damage when attacking from high ground, which is nice, but I don't think it's that good as compared to our Warfare here. I also have 1 point in the Scoundrel here, and then I got points into Pyrokinetic here, which will give us additional fire damage, but this is more so that we want to get the Pyrokinetic up so that we can get a, I guess we don't even need the 3 points there. We want to be able to use certain skills, so we can put this point into there. And then we want to have 2 points in the Air Third as well, so we can actually rebalance this here to have 12 Warfare. The Pyrokinetic is going to be for things like haste. We actually are a good buffer with this. Air Thirds, which is allowing us to set up into proper positioning, and that's going to be what we'll roll with. If you can get points into summoning, that's not bad because of his wolf, but not necessary. And for the special talents, I like ambidextrous. This is interesting because whenever you're using a bow, it's considered that you have your offhand free, which will allow you to reduce the cost of grenades and scrolls by 1 action point, which is actually really good. So you want to load him up with all grenades and scrolls. He's kind of your item guy. Elemental Ranger. Shooting arrows will inflict bonus damage depending on the surface that we're standing in. Blood is pretty easy to set up for an extra 20% damage. Executioner. You can also go with the pawn here. I think the pawn might be a little bit better because we do need to set up with this build. So the pawn can be great because we took the 1 point in Scoundrel to be able to equip this. And this just gives us movement speed, which is nice. And then Hothead, as we're going to be from range, giving us 10% crit chance, is very impactful. But Elemental Ranger is good. I also like if you don't want to go with something like the Hothead here, you can go with the Arrow Recovery, which will give you a 33% chance to recover your special arrows. So that can be nice as well if you don't want the Hothead for more damage. Now, as mentioned, we don't need as many skills here. One of the best ones, though, is Tactical Retreat. So this gives you haste. Basically, it uses 1 action point. You get your action point back next turn. It's a kind of nice one. Basically gives you a free teleport. It's good. Teleportation. This will let you teleport a character and item to a place you're choosing. Pretty nice. But Nether Swap is our big impactful skill with 2 Air Third points. This lets us, if you see someone that's on high ground, we can swap places with them and get the high ground benefits really easily with only 1 action point cost. Then once we're up there, we can pop Adrenaline and go with one of our other skills like Reactive Shot. I like the Ballistic Shot here, giving us increased damage. It's going to be the main damage option that we got. The further away we are, the more damage we deal from high ground. That's really nice. Ricochet is good if there's multiple targets around. It's kind of good in that regard. Sky Shot will give you the high ground advantage when you're attacking at close range. Marksman's Fang will ignore armor, which is actually really impactful on certain setups. First Aid is great because you can use this and heal yourself or a teammate and remove any of those conditions there, which is great to have. Reactive Shot, it's kind of your last resort. One thing I want to mention, though, is Pin Down. It sucks. Don't use it. 3 action point cost, and Pin Down's not good. Not when we have knockdown arrows, but we'll get to that in a second. We also have Encourage there to buff our team and summon Ifan's Soul Wolf. You can do this before you get into combat because it lasts for 10 turns, so that's something that's nice. Also have Haste from gear, which we want to have. And as mentioned, we want to use these arrows. The best ones being our knockdown arrows, charming arrows, which are kind of easier to get, and then something like the fire arrows if you want to set up surfaces for something like summoning if you wanted to roll with that. Now, as far as our equipment goes, we're all about finesse and anything that we can get related to our crit chance. We got a 29% crit chance, which is kind of nice. Air Thirds points are good too for getting more teleportation-based skills, but typically we're just looking for more warfare on this and a few points into the Huntsman. So you can throw all your Huntsman gear at him. It's kind of the best way to go about doing that. I also like to have the silence on the bow as well, because we can shut down enemy spellcasters well with this. Unfortunately, Sebille got charmed again here. We just want to show off some combat so you get an idea of how to play. Now, typically, again, our ranger wants to get to high ground and away from everyone. So what you can use, you can actually do something funny here with the Nether Swap, which lets you and a target swap places so that you can get yourself into a better far away position so that you can use things like our Reactive Shot or Ballistic Shot from far range. Or Ricochet, which is nice because you can then hit multiple targets at a time. Unfortunately, hit Sebille there, but we also have the Encourage here, which is nice because we're actually able to buff our entire team from this range. Now I'm in a position where I want to get this target to not have their armor anymore. So 78 here, I might be able to break that down and use Battle Stomp to be able to take them out. So I'm going to go for that there. Potentially, we want to get, unfortunately knocked her down, but that's fine because that turns her back on her. So that actually worked out pretty well. This target now has really low shield so that we can go ahead with Lohse here, and then she can knock him down. That's the reason that we want to have these skills on everybody, so we can just continually keep spamming them and knock the enemies down. It's kind of the way we want to go about doing this. Bouncing shield's nice too, because you can use this for a bit of extra damage you can throw from range, so it's not optimal. That target got back up, but that means that we can use a knockdown arrow from range to then knock them back down. That's the best part about those. You want to save them as much as you can. And then we can go ahead. This guy doesn't have any armor on, so you want to probably use something like the ballistic shot here for a bit of extra damage. That did 173, not too shabby. Still need to wear down this target's armor here. They finally just showed back up. But we can also pop Shackles of Pain once you got physical armor down on a target. That's great. I would actually save our other abilities to retain, or to give ourselves some health until later. And one of the worst things is getting atrophied, especially as a rogue style character here, because this just basically means that you're taken out of the fight. So we can use Chicken Claw on this enemy here. We can't really do too like attacks of any sort, so all we really got is our teleport skill, or using our grenades here, which is probably the best option. So it's nice to have those just as a backup to be able to hit an enemy that may have made you unable to attack back. And I guess we'll just teleport him away here. And perfect enough, I can use the battering ram to then go ahead and knock him down and get a free extra attack in there. That's kind of nice. So then we also can attack him from range. Tactical retreat being a really nice option too if you need to close a gap somewheres and you just want to pop that quickly. And what's great is with the 1 action point cost, since we also have haste, you can then go ahead and apply this on another character. And since I got that extra action point on Fane here, I can then use the Phoenix attack here to be able to teleport in, Lohse. Then we can use our battering ram to knock him down, potentially. It didn't end up working that way. We'll just go with a normal attack. And finally, we can show off what's going on with Sebille here. So again, the pawn being really nice because you can get in position, then use something like Backlash to get those critical attacks off. We silence him perfectly. And we'll go with Rupture Tendons, because if he ends up moving, he's going to take quite a bit of damage there, and he probably will go down to this attack. Oh, didn't. He has 7 health left, so yeah, that happened. And we'll finish him off here, so yeah. And we still got to deal with the chicken, so that's nice. It just sat there and didn't really do anything. That's the beautiful thing about turning him into a chicken. Now, if we were in a tough situation, a knockdown arrow would be good, but honestly, you can just go ahead with your normal attacks here, or Marksman's Fang, and this should be more than enough to take them out here. And then if that doesn't do the trick, we got a Mosquito Swarm here, which will give ourselves some extra health back, which will likely do the deed. And knocked him down, taking him out. So that is the best party build for Act 2 physical damage. I'll be doing a elemental style video in the future, so you can stay tuned for that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below. If you have any questions regarding Divinity Original Sin 2, feel free to leave those in the comments. And I hope you guys all have a great day.